What's good, y'all? It's your boy DJ 666, and I'm here to talk to y'all today about what's really going on in the Ukraine. Now, by no means am I an expert of any sort or anything like that. You're gonna constantly see me looking up, by the way, because this is my monitor above my head is for my stream, the stuff you guys can't see. What you can see right now is we're on a YouTube page, The Real Reason Putin is Invading Ukraine. Okay. And this is by my homie Johnny Harris. Shout out to Johnny. Amazing videographer, cinematographer, documentary artist. Just an amazing artist in general. So we're gonna check his shit out, see what some of what he's got to say. Johnny's very connected on the ground with a lot of places in a lot of countries, so he definitely has the good scoop. Let me pause this music. Johnny's always got the good scoop. I actually seen a thing before we get started real quick. I think it was CBS or CNBC News was getting blasted because they had the audacity to try to put some propaganda out there that the major inflation in the United States was caused by this current Ukraine conflict. Yeah. They really had the audacity to say that. So let's just fuck those guys, first of all. Anyway, man, let's see what Johnny's got to say, and then we'll jump into some more, all right?
Russian invasion of Ukraine. Momentum is building for a war between Ukraine and Russia.
Tensions between Russia and the West are growing rapidly.
President Biden considering deploying thousands of troops to Eastern Europe.
There are now 100,000 troops on the eastern border of Ukraine. Russia is setting up field hospitals on this border. Like, this is what preparation for war looks like, a legitimate war.
Ukrainian troops are watching and waiting, saying they are preparing for a fight.
The US has ordered the families of embassy staff to leave Ukraine. Britain has sent all of their non-essential staff home. And now the US is sending tons of weapons and munitions to Ukraine's army. And we're even considering deploying our own troops to the region. I mean, this thing is heating up. Meanwhile, Russia and the West have been in Geneva and Brussels trying to talk it out and sort of getting nowhere.
The message is very clear.
Just a quick little update. Johnny made this video before the conflict and all that took off. I seen last night we were sending 5,000 US troops over to Ukraine. So that is a real thing. 5,000 US troops are headed to Ukraine right now as we speak. They might already be there. So yeah, let's keep going.
Should Russia take aggressive actions against Ukraine, the costs will be severe and the consequences serious.
It's a scary, grim momentum that is unpredictable, and the chances of miscalculation and escalation are growing. I want to explain what's going on here, but I want to show you that this isn't just
really
typical geopolitical behavior, stuff that can just be explained on the map. Instead, to understand why 100,000 troops are camped out on Ukraine's eastern border, ready for war, you have to understand Russia and how it's been cut down over the ages, from a Slavic empire that dominated this whole region to then the Soviet Union, which was defeated in the 90s. And what you really have to understand here is how that history is transposed onto the brain of one man, this guy, Vladimir Putin. This is a story about regional domination and struggles between big powers, but really, it's the story about what Vladimir Putin really wants.
Russian troops moving swiftly to take control of military bases in Crimea.
Russia is amassing more than 100,000 troops and a lot of military hardware at the border with Ukraine.
If I would have had this when I was maybe 20, I probably would be a billionaire right now.
Before we go any further, I want to say thank you to today's sponsor, which is BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a platform that allows you to access therapy. I'm a major fan of therapy. I've been doing it for over 2 years now, and it has changed my entire world. I really believe that therapy is overstigmatized and not accessible to people. And BetterHelp is trying to change that, which I really believe in and support. With BetterHelp, you can quickly sign up and you take a little quiz and it connects you to a network of thousands and thousands of professionals who you can start talking with today. There are a variety of experts in different fields of therapy within BetterHelp's network. So you can find somebody who is right for you. And for me, I didn't have any particular specific issue that I was going to therapy for. I just started therapy and I realized that it was just incredibly helpful to have someone to talk to and to learn how to express my feelings and to learn how to talk about what was happening inside of my brain. BetterHelp is not a crisis line, it's not self-help, it is licensed, legitimate, professional therapists who you connect with over the internet securely, which is great because therapy is usually really hard to figure out. Where's the right therapist? How do I get in? How do I book it? All of that is usually very difficult, at least in my experience. And so BetterHelp is making it easier. So if you want to try this out, you can get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp by going to the link in my description. Thank you, BetterHelp, for supporting my channel, for supporting this work. Let's dive back in. Okay, let's get up to speed on what's happening here. And I'm just gonna quickly give you the highlight version of like the news that's happening because I wanna get into the juicy part, which is like why, the roots of all of this. So let's go. A few months ago, Russia started sending more and more troops to this border. It's this massive border between Ukraine and Russia. They said they were doing a military exercise, but the rest of the world was like, yeah, we totally believe you, Russia. This was right before this big meeting where North American and European countries were coming together to talk about a lot of different things like these countries often do in these diplomatic summits. But soon, because of Russia's aggressive behavior coming in and setting up 100,000 troops on the border with Ukraine, the entire summit turned into a whole WTF Russia, what are you doing on the border of Ukraine meeting. Before the meeting, Putin comes out and says, listen, I have some demands for the West. And everyone's like, okay, Russia, what are your demands? You know, we have like COVID-19 right now and like that's like surging. So like, we don't need your like bluster about what your demands are. And Putin's like, no, here's my list of demands. Putin's demands for the summit were this. Number one, that NATO, which is this big military alliance between US, Canada, and Europe, stop expanding, meaning they don't let any new members in, okay? So Russia's like, no more new members to your like cool military club that I don't like. You can't have any more members. Number two, that NATO withdraw all of their troops from anywhere in Eastern Europe. Basically, Putin is saying, I can veto any military cooperation or troops going between countries that have to do with Eastern Europe, the place that used to be the Soviet Union, okay? And number three, Putin demands that America vow not to protect its allies in Eastern Europe with nuclear weapons. LOL, said all of the other countries. You're literally nuts, Vladimir Putin. Like, these are the most ridiculous demands ever. But there he is, Putin, with these demands, these very, very aggressive demands. And he sort of is implying that if his demands aren't met, he's going to invade Ukraine. I mean, it doesn't work like this. This is not how international relations work. You don't just show up and say, like, I'm not going to allow other countries to join your alliance because it makes me feel uncomfortable. But what I love about this list of demands from Vladimir Putin for this summit is that it gives us a clue on what Vladimir Putin really wants, what he's after here. You read them closely and you can grasp his intentions. But to grasp those intentions, you have to understand what NATO is and what Russia and Ukraine used to be. Okay, so a while back I made this video about why Russia is so damn big, where I explain how modern day Russia started here in Kiev, which is actually modern day Ukraine. In other words, modern day Russia, as we know it, has its original roots in Ukraine. These places grew up together, and they eventually became a part of the same mega empire called the Soviet Union. They were deeply intertwined, not just in their history and their culture, but also in their economy and their politics.
Hey, what's happening, Joe? The Great Reset is definitely upon us, bro. Shit is about to go down. Congrats on the new equipment. Thank you, homie. I appreciate that. We're gonna get through this short video with Johnny, and then I'm obviously gonna have some commentary and shit like that. We are now streaming also in 1080p, 60 FPS. So we're going to get through this video with Johnny. World War III is coming, though. Reality for everybody watching this video, the last time something like this has happened was Germany in World War II. The Nazis? Yeah, this is kind of a fucking big deal. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue getting the scoop from my boy Johnny.
Politics. So it's after World War II. It's like the 50s, 60s, 70s. And NATO was formed, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This was a military alliance between all of these countries that was meant to sort of deter the Soviet Union from expanding and taking over the world. But, as we all know, the Soviet Union, which was Russia and all of these other countries, collapsed in 1991. And all of these Soviet republics, including Ukraine, became independent, meaning they were not now a part of one big block of countries anymore. But just because the borders all split up, it doesn't mean that these cultural ties actually broke. Like, for example, the Soviet leader at the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union, this guy, Gorbachev, he was the son of a Ukrainian mother and a Russian father. Like, he grew up with his mother singing him Ukrainian folk songs. In his mind, Ukraine and Russia were like one thing. So there was major reluctance to accept Ukraine as a separate thing from Russia. In so many ways, they are one. There was another Russian at the time who did not accept this new division. This young intelligence officer, Vladimir Putin, who was starting to rise up in the ranks of post-Soviet Russia. There's this amazing quote from 2005 where Putin is giving the State of the Union address, where Putin declares the collapse of the Soviet Union, quote, the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century. And as for the Russian people, it became a genuine tragedy. Tens of millions of fellow citizens and countrymen found themselves beyond the fringes of Russian territory. Do you see how he frames this? The Soviet Union were all one people in his mind. And after it collapsed, all of these people who were a part of the motherland were now outside of the fringes or the boundaries of Russian territory. First off, fact check. Greatest catastrophe of the 20th century? Like, do you remember what else happened in the 20th century, Vladimir?
Delivery. Hey, have a great...
Fucking ads, man. Fucking ads.
Putin's worry about the collapse of this one people starts to get way worse when the West, his enemy, starts showing up to his neighborhood, to all these ex-Soviet countries that are now independent. The West starts selling their ideology of democracy and capitalism and inviting them to join their military alliance called NATO. And guess what? These countries are totally buying it. All these ex-Soviet countries are now joining NATO, and some of them the EU, and Putin is hating this. He's like, not only did the Soviet Union divide and all of these people are now outside of the Russia motherland, but now they're being persuaded by the West to join their military alliance. This is terrible news. Over the years, this continues to happen while Putin himself starts to chip away at Russian institutions, making them weaker and weaker. He's silencing his rivals, and he's consolidating power in himself. And in the past few years, he's effectively silenced anyone who can challenge him. Any institution, any court, or any political rival have all been silenced. It's been decades since the Soviet Union fell.
Bro, straight up, Putin makes motherfuckers disappear, dog. Real quick, if you haven't heard of Alexei Navalny, he is a guy just like me that challenges the system. And Putin literally had, I'm not joking you, like CIA operatives, the Russian CIA type motherfuckers. They poisoned this motherfucker in his sleep, bro. They put this poison in his underwear and it shuts down your nervous system, and he was in a coma for 6 months. All because he was trolling Putin and exposing how corrupt the Russian government really is, bro. It's fucking insane. It is insane, dog. Russia is the biggest corruption story you've ever seen. Back to the video.
But as Putin gains more power, he still sees the region through the lens of the old Cold War, Soviet, Slavic Empire view. He sees this region as one big block that has been torn apart by outside forces. the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century. And the worst situation of all of these, according to Putin, is Ukraine, which was like the gem of the Soviet Union. There was tons of cultural heritage. Again, Russia sort of started in Ukraine. Not to mention, it was a very populous and industrious, resource-rich place. And over the years, Ukraine has been drifting west. It hasn't joined NATO yet, but more and more it's been electing pro-Western presidents. It's been flirting with membership in NATO. It's becoming less and less attached to the Russian heritage that Putin so adores. And more than half of Ukrainians say that they'd be down to join the EU. 64% of them say that they would be cool joining NATO. But Putin can't handle this. He is in total denial. Like an ex-boyfriend who can't handle his ex-girlfriend starting to date someone else, Putin can't let Ukraine go. He won't let go. So for the past decade, he's been trying to keep the West out and bring Ukraine back into the motherland of Russia. This usually takes the form of Putin sending secret soldiers from Russia into Ukraine to help the people in Ukraine who want to like separate from Ukraine and join Russia. It also takes the form of, oh yeah, stealing entire parts of Ukraine for Russia.
Russian troops moving swiftly to take control of military bases in Crimea.
Like in 2014, Putin just did this.
To what America is officially calling a Russian invasion of Ukraine.
He went down and just snatched this bit of Ukraine and folded it into Russia. So you're starting to see what's going on here. Putin's life's work is to salvage what he calls the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century, the division and the separation of the Soviet republics from Russia. So let's get to present day. It's 2022. Putin is at it again. And honestly, if you really want to understand the mind of Vladimir Putin and his whole view on this, you have to read this. On the History of Unity of Russians and Ukrainians by Vladimir Putin, a blog post that kind of sounds like a 9th grade history essay. In this essay, Vladimir Putin argues that Russia...
Absolutely, Joe. It's actually to the point where the elite troll people that talk about the corruption and stuff like that, and they use the word conspiracy theorist, and you're 100% right. The word conspiracy has been made into a bad word because of, you know, they don't want the truth to be out there. You're 110% right. Johnny's spitting straight facts here, you know what I'm saying? So I would love anybody to come into this video and try to argue that Putin is simply... Bro, the media... I seen it on Fox. Tucker Carlson was saying Putin was trying to keep the peace. I'm going to show y'all some shit about how peaceful it really is, bro. Fucking insane, man.
Russia and Ukraine are one people. He calls them essentially the same historical and spiritual space. Kind of beautiful writing, honestly. Anyway, he argues that the division between the two countries is due to, quote, a deliberate effort by those forces that have always sought to undermine our unity. And that the formula they use, these outside forces, is a classic one: divide and rule. And then he launches into this super in-depth, like 10-page argument as to every single historical beat of Ukraine and Russia's history to make this argument that like this is one people and the division is totally because of outside powers, i.e. the West. Okay, but listen, there's this moment at the end of the post that actually kind of hit me in a big way. He says this: just have a look at Austria and Germany, or the US and Canada, how they live next to each other. Close in ethnic composition, culture, and in fact sharing one language, they remain sovereign states with their own interests, with their own foreign policy, but this does not prevent them from the closest integration or allied relations. They have very conditional, transparent borders, and when crossing them, citizens feel at home. They create families, study, work, do business. Incidentally, so do millions of those born in Ukraine who now live in Russia. We see them as our own close people.
Goddamn ads. This is where I bought my PC from, bro. Redux. This is where you want to buy PCs at, for real. I swear to God, if I would have bought my PC anywhere else, it would have costed $3,500. I only spent $2,200. Redux is where it's at.
I mean, listen, like, I'm not in support of what Putin is doing, but like that's like a pretty solid like analogy.
Big facts, Joe. Big fucking facts.
Started like coaxing Canada into being a part of its alliance. I would be a little bit like, what's going on here? That's what Putin feels. And so I kind of get what he means there. There's a deep heritage and connection between these people. And he's seen that falter and dissolve, and he doesn't like it. He clearly, genuinely feels a brotherhood and this deep heritage connection with the people of Ukraine. Okay, Putin, I get it. Your essay is compelling there at the end. You're clearly very smart and well-read. But this does not justify what you've been up to, okay? It doesn't justify sending 100,000 troops to the border, or sending cyber soldiers to sabotage the Ukrainian government, or annexing territory, fueling a conflict that has killed tens of thousands of people in eastern Ukraine. No. Okay? No matter how much affection you feel for Ukrainian heritage and its connection to Russia, this is not okay. Again, it's like the boyfriend who genuinely loves his girlfriend. They had a great relationship, but they broke up. And she's free to see whomever she wants. But Putin is not ready to let go.
What the hell's wrong with you? I love you, Jessica. What the hell is wrong with you, dude? Don't fucking touch me. I love you, dude. World Star!
Putin has constructed his own reality here, one in which Ukraine is actually being controlled by shadowy Western forces who are holding the people of Ukraine hostage. And if that he invades, it'll be a swift victory because Ukrainians will accept him with open arms, the great liberator. Like, this guy's a total romantic. He's a history buff and a romantic, and he has a hill to die on here. And it is liberating the people who have been taken from the Russian motherland. Kind of like the abusive boyfriend who's like, she actually really loves me, but it's her annoying friends who are planting all these ideas in her head. That's why she broke up with me. And it's like, no, dude, she's over you.
What the hell's wrong with you? I love you, Jessica.
I mean, maybe this video should be called Putin is just like your abusive ex-boyfriend.
What the hell's wrong with you? I love you, Jessica. World Star! What's wrong with you?
Okay, so where does this leave us? It's 2022. Putin is showing up to these meetings in Europe to tell them where he stands. He says, NATO, you cannot expand anymore. No new members, and you need to withdraw all your troops from Eastern Europe, my neighborhood. He knows these demands will never be accepted because they're ludicrous, but what he's doing is showing a false effort to say, well, we tried to negotiate with the West, but they didn't want to, hence giving a little bit more justification to a Russian invasion. So, will Russia invade? Is there war coming? Maybe. It's impossible to know because it's all inside of the head of this guy.
Like I said, Johnny did make this video before, the past few days. And we are going to war. They sent 5,000 troops over there. Russia has been bombing and tearing shit up in Ukraine. It is absolutely going down in the Ukraine right now.
But if I were to make the best argument that war is not coming tomorrow, I would look at a few things. Number one, war in Ukraine would be incredibly costly for Vladimir Putin. Russia has a far superior army to Ukraine's, but still Ukraine has a very good army that is supported by the West and would give Putin a pretty bad bloody nose in any invasion. Controlling territory in Ukraine would be very hard. Ukraine is a giant country. They would fight back, and it would be very hard to actually conquer and take over territory. Another major point here is that if Russia invades Ukraine, this gives NATO new purpose. If you remember, NATO was created because of the Cold War, because the Soviet Union was big and nuclear powered. Once the Soviet Union fell, NATO sort of has been looking for a new purpose over the past couple decades.
Big facts, Joe. Big facts. You're exactly on point, bro. For real. 110%, bro.
If Russia invades Ukraine, NATO suddenly has a brand new purpose to unite and to invest in becoming more powerful than ever. Putin knows that, and it would be very bad news for him if that happened. But most importantly, perhaps the easiest clue for me to believe that war isn't coming tomorrow is the Russian propaganda machine is not preparing the Russian people for an invasion. In 2014, when Russia was...
Like I said, Johnny made this video before the past few days, how he just said they're not spreading propaganda yet. That has actually started to happen. Russia has been using their state-controlled media and things like that to spread propaganda about the Ukraine invasion. They're trying to get all the Russian people on the side of it. But Johnny does clarify that, so make sure you read the text that's about to pop up, okay?
Was about to invade and take over Crimea, this part of Ukraine, there was a barrage of state propaganda
since filming this a few days ago. Russia has begun to release some propaganda claiming that NATO will invade Ukraine. Straight propaganda. NATO's not invading anything
right now in Russia. At least for now. It may start happening tomorrow.
It did.
For now,
it
I
did.
think Putin is showing up to the border, flexing his muscles, and showing the West that he is earnest. I'm not sure that he's going to invade tomorrow, but he very well could. I mean, read the guy's blog post and you'll realize that he is a romantic about this. He is incredibly idealistic about the glory days of the Slavic empires, and he wants to get it back. So there is dangerous momentum towards war. And the way war works is even a small little fight can turn into the other guy doing something bigger and crazier, and then the other person has to respond with something a little bit bigger. That's called escalation. And there's not really a ceiling to how much that momentum can spin out of control. That is why it's so scary when two nuclear countries go to war with each other, because there's kind of no ceiling. So yeah, it's dangerous. This is scary. I'm not sure what happens next here, but the best we can do is keep an eye on this. At least for now, we better understand what Putin really wants out of all of this. Thanks for watching.
So yeah, to best summarize, Putin does not like that Ukraine is being, quote unquote, influenced by the West. He does not like that. He does not care for it. You know what I'm saying? Let me make my screen bigger real quick for y'all. He doesn't like it because Ukraine is obviously, like, quote unquote, part of Russia, but Ukraine is its own thing now, right? You know what I'm saying? They're not influenced by Russia. Ukraine has their own elections and shit like that, and their idealistic, fantasy would be democracy and shit like that. And they want to join NATO and stuff like that, but NATO has pushed it off. NATO is the big fucking, collaboration with all these countries like the United States, England and shit like that, and a lot of other countries. It's an alliance, you know what I'm saying, to prevent your homies from getting invaded. So if Ukraine was part of NATO, we would 110% have their back. We still do, though, because as of yesterday, we sent over 5,000 troops to Ukraine to fucking lock and load. You know what I'm saying? We're on the side of Ukraine in this. But Vladimir Putin has made it clear that if the West gets involved, shit is going to get bad. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very sticky situation. We're going to watch some more clips. I've seen a lot of crazy shit, bro. I've seen fucking airplanes getting blown up. I've seen buildings being blown up. I've seen one where rockets were getting fired into fucking neighborhoods from Russia was firing into Ukraine neighborhoods, and children are crying. And bro, it's a lot of wild shit. You know what I'm saying? So let me pull up some more shit for y'all. This is Russia bombing Ukraine capital city right here. Look at all those explosions going off back here. This is obviously caught from CTV's security camera. Putin is doing what Trump was doing. Trump told our enemies, try anything and we will blow you off the face of the earth. Look at this shit, bro. This is fucking nuts. This is intense, bro. People are recording this from their homes in neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is fucking wild.
Did you know you could receive free cell phone service? Thanks to the COVID-19 Relief Act, get unlimited data, talk, and text.
This is fucking nuts. Jesus Christ, man. And the reason y'all need to be concerned about this is because, like I said at the beginning, the last time some shit like this happened was Germany in World War II. Y'all remember, you know, a small group called the Nazis? The fucking Nazis? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's the type of shit that this is, bro. This is not a small deal. You know what I'm saying, homie? This is not no fucking small deal by any fucking means. He wrong in what he is doing, but not wrong at the same time. It's strategic timing wise, since our leader is weak. Therefore, we are weak. He knew he wouldn't get another chance to make a move. China waiting to see how it gets handled, tweaking their plan for Taiwan. It is very interesting you bring up China, homie, because China and Russia. I'll play this one in a sec. China and Russia have gotten super duper close. They're like best buds at this point in time. So that's fucking scary. First of all, that's scary. You know what I'm saying? China got their back. Yep, they said it already in so many words. China has been bullying a lot of their neighbors. China has invested billions of dollars in Africa. So they literally essentially own Africa at this point. If you don't believe me, go look at a video Johnny Harris made about the subject. Johnny makes great shit about the truth. China, bro, this is some World War III type shit. Like, this is why people need to be concerned. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to freak everybody out and be like, oh my God, we're going to war. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying, like, people need to have a vested interest in this. You know what I'm saying? And you're right, Joe. It is because we are weak. Biden is fucking president. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a weak ass president. The world views us as weak and pussy right now. You know what I'm saying? Enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yeah. And China and Russia, for the longest time, bro, NATO tried to keep China and Russia from becoming homies. So the fact that the United States has just helped push those two big superpowers even closer together is a fucking travesty. China, Russia, Iran will come together. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Peep this. Kiev attacks intensify as Russian forces close in on Ukraine's capital. Obviously, in war, you always want to take over the capital city. Yep, sleepy child smelling Joe. Creepy fucking Joe, man. Creepy, sleepy Joe Biden. Video on social media shows a massive explosion in the skies of Kiev. The Storyful news agency said it had corroborated events. Footage obtained by WSJ shows smoke rising from a residential building hit during Russia's military operation in Kiev.
Russian forces were at the very edge of the city on Friday morning following a night of airstrikes that hit, among other targets, a civilian building.
There were several civilian casualties on Friday. Attacks continued across the country after more than 100 Ukrainians died earlier. 100 Ukrainians died. Several Ukrainian military vehicles were converging toward the capital Friday afternoon. And Ukrainian forces were in operation on the streets of the city. Traffic continued to congest roads as more people attempted to leave, while others took shelter in underground subway stations.
The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, remained defiant. He said that he will not surrender and that Ukraine will have to fight this battle because the rest of the world is just sitting and watching.
Чи переконали Росію вчорашні санкції?
We hear in our sky and see in our land that this is not enough. Foreign troops are still trying to become more active in our territory. Good for him, though. The Russian president says he will not surrender.
Here are 3 reasons why you should buy a new gaming PC from Build Redux.
And this lady right here is absolutely right. My brand new PC is coming from Redux. If I would have went to any other place, I would have spent $1,000 to $2,000 more than what I did. Peep this real quick and we'll get back to it.
1, we offer the best pricing on quality gaming PCs.
They do.
2, our team will build and optimize your gaming PC for maximum FPS. And 3, every system comes with a comprehensive 2-year warranty.
Build Redux. I spent $2,200 on my PC. And anywhere else it would have costed easy $3,000, $4,000. Easy. I'm going to try to find y'all that video I seen yesterday where they're dropping bombs in neighborhoods.
From the moment Putin made the announcement of the invasion, the people of Ukraine started seeking shelter. This mom and her children are huddling inside an underground bunker where supplies and food are in short supply. She spoke with our Stephen Fabian.
The terrifying wail of an air raid siren as the citizens of Ukraine flee a nation under attack. The highways gridlocked. At Kyiv's main train terminal, there are long lines as thousands of people scramble to secure passage out of town. At the bus depot, ordinary Ukrainians clutching their children and pets, desperate to get away.
For civilians who are now going to be on the move in great numbers, you see.
To see what comes next, where they go from here.
Olena Ness was awakened by shelling at 5 a.m. She gathered her children and headed to the nearest bomb shelter, where they huddle with neighbors. They sit in silence, stone-faced, the uncertainty and fear weighing heavily on them.
Do you feel safe at all in there?
No. I do not feel safe being in the bomb shelter.
Yesterday, Olena's children were in school. Today, the schools and most businesses are closed. Nobody knows what the future holds.
We need your help. We need your arms. We need your troops. We need you to stop Putin.
Innocent civilians have been left bloodied and battered. The images are truly upsetting. American citizens are also scrambling to get out. Aaron Starr from Napa, California sent us this video. He's in a car with his Ukrainian girlfriend fleeing Kyiv in heavy traffic. Out the window, he saw Ukrainians escaping on foot.
That's so fucking crazy, bro. It is 2022 and this shit is going on right now. Vladimir Putin is committing war crimes as we speak. These are fucking war crimes.
Do you live outside the service area of big city internet providers? No big deal. HughesNet brings you fast satellite.
Fuck HughesNet. Right, don't ever get HughesNet. If you're looking for a new internet provider, go to T-Mobile, homie. Convoy is going to have to make a big impact somehow. Not sure if it will, but how they react to it could piss off U.S. citizens if they do them like Canada. I agree. I definitely agree, Joe. If Vladimir Putin is not stripped of his power after this, that will be the biggest bullshit in the history of the planet ever. He's committing war crimes right now. This is no different than what Hitler did, besides obviously Hitler did the concentration camps. Hitler invaded, killed people, bombed motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? People are dying because of Putin. These are war crimes. Ukraine obviously did not provoke Russia in any way. So for Russia to straight up invade, this is a war crime. This is a big deal.
Following some big international breaking news, NATO officials now saying Russia has officially invaded Ukraine.
Fox 26 anchor Rashi Vat's joining us live in the newsroom as she tracks what is developing tonight.
That's right. Big developments here, possibly a start to war. And like you said, Russia has begun attacking Ukraine. And this is according to NATO officials. Now, this all started moments after Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that he had decided to conduct a special military operation to protect what he says is the eastern Ukraine's Donbas region. Now, we have a live shot right now of Kiev, Ukraine right now. This is the capital city. And to give you some perspective, it is a densely populated area, nearly 3 million people. And there are reports of loud blasts. Now, we have not confirmed any bombs on the ground.
I believe it.
But there
Babies
is a
in the hospital. I totally
happening.
believe it.
And also in the eastern city of Kharkiv, which is the second largest city in Ukraine, there are also reports of loud bomb blasts. Now, Biden did respond earlier this evening saying, quote, "The prayers of the entire world are with the people of Ukraine tonight as they suffer an unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russian military forces." President Putin has chosen a premeditated war that will bring a catastrophic loss of life and human suffering. Now, President Joe
Right there, Joe Biden's fucking comment, that is pussy shit. Do you know what Trump would have said? Trump would have said, we're going to bomb that motherfucker out of existence and we're going to hit him hard and we're going to hit him fast. Biden is downplaying it, saying, oh, our thoughts and prayers are with you. Granted, they did send 5,000 troops over there, but the troops aren't there to fight. They're there to evacuate people and shit like that. They're there, you know what I'm saying, playing as offense. We're not there to help, which we should be fucking there to help, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I don't give a fuck. Like, Putin better be stripped of his power after this. Like, this is nuts, bro. If y'all, anybody else that watches this video, either now while it's live or after it's recorded, you need to understand that this is a huge, huge fucking deal.
Joe Biden also added that he is monitoring the situation right now from the White House, and he will meet with other G7 leaders in the morning and announce what he says are, quote, further consequences imposed on Russia. And we do know at this hour the United Nations Security Council is meeting right now. We'll have more on that coming up on the...
Right there, she said Biden and other leaders are talking about, quote unquote, consequences. You know what the consequences are? Sanctions. Sanctions as in like anything you export to us, we're going to make it triple cost. Do you think Putin gives a fuck? Do you think Putin gives a fuck about sanctions for money? Do you think he cares? Obviously, Putin and his fucking team looked into that before they invaded. They obviously knew they were going to get sanctioned and like their exports and shit were going to go up in price You know what I'm saying? It was going to cost them money. Obviously, they know that. Obviously, they don't give a fuck. Ukraine is a hard word to say, man. Ukraine president told the people they on their own. He knows we not going to help. That's fucked up. That is so fucked up, bro. If Trump was president, we would be over there fighting right now, bro. Dead ass. A couple of my homies are in the military, and I was talking to him yesterday, and obviously everything's classified and they can't say like anything. But I can always tell from speaking to them how tense a situation is. And 10 out of 10 on the tense Richter scale, bro. Like red level calamity type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a big fucking deal. We're going to go to war over this. Not we as in the United States, but we as in the planet. NATO just going to make sure they don't attack other countries. Yeah, and I believe that. NATO needs to be focused on the fact that Putin is currently committing war crimes and invading a country that did not provoke them in any fucking way. Like, there's rules to war, obviously, and like the laws of war. Like, say Ukraine went and bombed Russia or something like that. Obviously, Russia can, strike back and shit like that. Like, that's considered quote unquote allowed. But the fact for Russia to just run up in another country, that is not allowed. It is so fucked up, bro.
The News Edge for now, reporting live in the news.
What else we got?
What if you could access the world's manufacturing capacity with a few clicks? What would you?
Shelling reaches Ukrainian town of Shyastia near the Russian border. After Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered troops into the breakaway region of Lugansk.
Я вам потім покажу осколки. Так, давай. Ситуація на Щастинському напрямку продовжує зберігати свою напруженість.
The situation remains tense. Since the start of the day, the enemy has fired several times at the settlement using weapons prohibited by... Did you read that? It says the enemy, Russia, has been using weapons that were prohibited by the Minsk Agreement. If you're not familiar with the Minsk Agreement, M-I-N-S-K, the Minsk Agreement basically stated everything that's happening now would not happen. You know what I'm saying? So Russia is violating yet another treaty, another agreement, blah, blah, blah.
Потеряно, у нас ни связи нет, ни света.
No electricity, no light. We are using flashlights in the basement.
Прекратилось, а так только выйдешь, начинает опять гухать.
Hold on, let me We went inside and the shelling stopped for a while, but then we went back outside, the blast started again. It's scary, of course, although we have already experienced this before. Residents remember the fighting in the separatist regions that began in 2014. Rebels loyal to Russia seized government buildings in those places. Over 13,000 people have since died. 13,000! As the conflict escalates again, the sound of shelling returns. Let me play that back. Bombs going off. Did y'all see that part though? Since the conflict has began back in 2014, 13,000 people have died, bro. 13 fucking thousand. Vladimir Putin needs to be tried for war crimes. Ex-Ukrainian prez was on the streets. Wait, hold up. Ex-Ukrainian president was on the streets with a rifle. God damn. Ukraine rockets. Ukraine rocked by bomb blasts as war looms.
So, you want to get hired before summer ends? The hottest tech companies are desperate to.
Explosions have reportedly been heard in the Russian separatist city of Luhansk in eastern Ukraine, just 40 minutes apart amid fears of the imminent invasion. A car belonging to a separatist leader was also bombed in Donetsk, East Ukraine. These attacks are feared to be a Kremlin-inspired false flag con to give Vladimir Putin the excuse to invade Ukraine. So what they're doing is they're sending in, you know, these operatives that are blowing shit up and shit like that to give Putin and Russia the excuse to invade Ukraine and say, oh, well, hey, they started it. They didn't start shit. And the whole world knows they're fucking lying. It's insane, bro. These attacks are feared to be a false flag. Before the attack, separatists announced the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people over to Russia for fear of Ukrainian attack. You see how that said that? The people knew the attacks were coming, so they started evacuating, and they obviously went into Russia. That is exactly what Putin wants. He wants the people in Ukraine to be drove back into the arms of Mother Russia. I can't do it. Mother Russia. Russia. I can't roll my tongue that good. That's exactly what Putin wants, bro. Look at these motherfuckers shooting missiles, dog. U.S. officials said a full-scale invasion, including missile strikes, is expected within days. This was made on February 18th, last week. This was before the invasion. So their expectations were right. Their expectations were 110% right. Bro, people have already died. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is some serious shit. Like, this is World War III type shit. And I will say again, the last time something like this has happened was a little country called Germany back in World War II. You know, the fucking Nazis? Yeah. It is a big deal for a country to walk into another country and invade it unprovoked. That is a big deal. These are war crimes. Vladimir Putin needs to be tried for war crimes, bro. This is serious shit. This is World War III type shit, bro. This is not a fucking joke. This is not a joke. I know World War III gets joked about all the time. If World War III was ever going to happen, it would be because of this right here.
We have reason to believe the Russian forces are planning to
Fuck you, Joe Biden.
Attack Ukraine in the coming week, in the coming days. We believe that they will target Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, a city of 2.8 million innocent people. Russia has a choice between war and all the suffering it will bring, or diplomacy that will make a future safer for everyone.
Diplomacy. Yeah, Russia's got a choice. Diplomacy. How did that work out, Joe? Like I said, that was filmed last week. Diplomacy. Do you think Ukraine gives it, or Russia gives a fuck? Do you think they give a fuck about these sanctions? No, obviously they thought of all that, bro. They fucking thought of it. They knew it. Oh man, we're gonna sanction you. Vladimir Putin don't give a fuck. This should really pull some emotions on you. Watch this.
As we've reported, Ukraine's president implemented martial law, all while asking citizens to remain calm. Despite the president's words, many Ukrainians are fleeing for safety. Traffic was at a standstill in Kyiv as long lines of cars filled and clogged the streets. Now, to talk more about what's happening in Ukraine, I'd like to bring in Deputy Head of Ukraine's Parliamentary Majority, Alina Yatchenko. She's joining us right now. First, thank you for joining us in such a difficult time right now. How are people reacting in Ukraine? What are you seeing?
Hello, everyone. People are horrified on one hand, but on another hand, they are ready to protect their land because we are here standing on our land. It's our country, it's sovereign country, and none of other countries, no bloody Putin or Hitler or however you call him, will tell us what we should do.
Did you hear what she just said? She said Putin or Hitler or whatever you call him. She's part of the parliament in Ukraine. So she's up there. You know what I'm saying? That would be like somewhere between Congress and the president in the United States. She's up there. You know what I'm saying? And she just directly compared Putin to Hitler. You see what I'm saying about this shit hasn't happened since World War II with Germany and the Nazis? This is some real shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just saying this, and I'm not trying to sit here and work y'all up and freak y'all out. I'm trying to show y'all the truth, because a lot of news stations were trying to say this was peaceful, and Putin was trying to keep the peace, and he's the peacekeeper, and you know, it's like a CNBC tried to say the inflation in the United States is because of the Ukraine conflict, and they got blasted for it. Like, so many lies happening on the mass media in the United States.
And tell us that part of our land is not our land. Our people are not our people. But overall, the situation is very difficult. You can't imagine. Today, I woke up at 5 a.m. because of explosion. I heard explosion. And it was actually attempt to bomb Kyiv. Currently, tonight, another bombing of the capital city of Ukraine might happen, and we recommend people to go underground to subway or to their underground. And believe me, it's horrifying. I'm telling you it, not as just regular citizen, but as member of parliament and mother of 2 children. Today, Putin and Russian troops, and we're not talking about, you know, some separatists. It's Russian troops with Russian flag on their uniform. They were bombing cities all over Ukraine, not only eastern part, but also west, Kyiv, capital city, Odessa, some other big cities. We have lost about a couple dozen people, including children. Children were murdered today because the world was not serious about Putin. The world was not serious about sanctions on time. And now it's like every minute, every hour is important. So what the world can do now and what US should do now, 2 things. Please start with SWIFT. If you block Russia from SWIFT, it will really help, because then Russian citizens will come out to their streets and ask Putin, what is he doing, not only with Ukraine, but with their own country? He's killing and he's ruining lives, not only Ukrainians, he's murdering Ukrainians, literally, but he's also ruining life of his country and his citizens should tell him. So I beg American politicians to block Russia from SWIFT now. Please save Ukrainian men, women, and children.
Helena, I can hear it in your voice. I mean, this is a...
Bro, this girl is crying. You can tell she's fucking terrified, bro. She's begging for help. And all Joe Biden is doing is saying, our thoughts and prayers are with you. And he sent 5,000 troops over there, not to fight, but to help evacuate and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just... And China has Russia's back. You know what I'm saying? So this is some scary shit.
Russia from SWIFT. I beg you, please save our people. Another dozen of people and maybe hundreds of people might be murdered tonight.
President Zelensky has asked people to remain calm, but it's difficult. President Zelensky has asked people to remain calm. Are people staying in their homes in Ukraine to avoid this? What are you doing to protect your children?
I'm staying home because I need to go to work anytime. today I spent most of my time in the government neighborhood. We had the parliamentary meeting to adopt martial law, so our army and president can.
I don't want to stay focused on one thing too long. Russia's Putin announces military operation in Ukraine. That was 7 years ago. That was the start of the conflict, though, in small pieces 7 years ago. Bombing. The sound of bombs heard in the front lines of Ukraine. Did I already play this one? Yeah, I did. I'm trying to find the one. Where there's a missile that gets shot right into a neighborhood. China hates the elite, too. Putin hates the elite. He doing his own thing. He is. He doesn't care about the sanctions. He don't care about none of that shit, bro. Typing some more stuff in for y'all. War in Ukraine. What's happening in Kiev?
Russia has invaded Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has declared a special military operation, saying he aims to denazify Ukraine and protect Russia. And he has all but threatened nuclear escalation against the West if it tries to interfere.
The West would be us, the United States and shit. If we try to interfere, he's going all out. And we are technically interfering right now because we sent 5,000 troops over there.
The Economist correspondent Richard Ensor is in the Ukrainian capital, Kiev.
Overnight, everything's changed. You know, we went to bed. Ukraine was a country with one kind of future, and we've woken up to a completely different reality. It really is a new beginning for Ukraine, for Europe, and for the world.
I feel that, Joe, for real. The invisible hand, for real.
People have been hearing that in 2 days' time, in 2 weeks' time, in the coming days, Russia will invade. And like a boy who cries wolf, these reports have sometimes instilled in Ukrainians a bit of hardened skepticism. So when there were reports last night that yet again a Russian invasion may be imminent, some people took them completely seriously and stayed up all night checking the news, preparing their bags, and other people went straight to bed and got a really big shock when they woke up. I woke up early this morning and I heard immediately through my window these very loud sirens, which suggest that in Kiev, in the capital of Ukraine, there was about to be an air raid. So of course I grabbed my bag and I ran down to the street, and you could see that on the streets the mood was an immediate shift from what it had been the day before. People were very grim. We heard a police car coming by and they told us that we needed to run to the nearest metro station. And we didn't know if this was an impending missile raid or just general advice. It was very hard to know. So of course we grabbed our bag and we started to run. And underneath in the metro you saw families huddling, people not knowing what was going on, checking their phones, babies in prams, people with suitcases and plastic bags full of belongings, sitting around waiting to know what to do. And incredibly, at the same time, you saw people going past, getting on the metro, going to work like it's a completely normal day. I've never seen anything like it before. But you also had people starting to stock up on supplies, probably to stay in Kiev for a very long time in case things become a bit more chaotic. People filling up their tanks of gas so that they can leave, people buying medication from pharmacies. And this is a city that is suddenly on a war footing. People are either running away to leave. I can tell you that I saw the road out west leaving the city towards Lviv and the Polish border. And from the very crack of dawn, that has been backed up for hours and kilometers, and it's going to be very hard for people to leave in that way. Airspace is being closed. It's for people who want to leave, it's very tough. But
y'all see all those people in the subway evacuating? That's fucking insane, bro. Absolutely insane, dog. Like, Putin needs to be tried for war crimes, dog. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are fucking war crimes. Dead ass.
Of course, a lot of people want to stay because they love Ukraine, it's their home, and they think it's worth fighting for. A lot of people are going to be picking up guns. The president has said that anyone who wants a gun to defend their country can get one. In Kiev, a sense of order prevails right now. There are no vigilantes on the streets. There are armed service members, people from the National Guard on the streets. A lot of them are checking in some...
Let's look for some actual footage. We've seen that one. We've seen that one. Russia forces invade Ukraine as Biden imposes stronger sanctions. Like I already said, Putin has strategists and all that shit, bro. They knew the sanctions were going to come. Therefore, they don't give a single motherfuck about the sanctions. Obviously, they have weighed this out completely. They've weighed it out, and they know that their war, whatever his end goal is a bigger profit, so to say, than the sanctions. The war means more than the sanctions. You know what I'm saying? Bob Saget was an example to those who think they break the oath of silence. Yep, Bob Saget died of head trauma, some kind of head trauma to his head. Footage from Ukraine appears to show a column of military vehicles begin their attack. Ukraine, now a nation at war. Russian snipers in the Ukraine.
A team of snipers is moving into position on the front line in eastern Ukraine. This video was released by the Ukrainian military, which said it was further proof of direct Russian military involvement in the conflict in the Donbass. An official statement said these men were members of Russia's Federal Security Service, who filmed themselves in February 2020.
Чтобы они вылезли. Еще здесь надо убить кого-нибудь. Чтобы они вообще голову не поднимали.
The Ukrainian military did not say how it obtained the video, merely stating that it had carried out a special operation. Russia has always denied its forces are in eastern Ukraine, despite extensive evidence of their presence. Experts we spoke to said this video was further proof.
They're wearing a lot of FSB stuff, so it's body armor, the service pistol that they're issued, the sniper rifle, they're issued, the camouflage, the gear for taking weather data, it's all FSB.
Russia has always claimed that separatist fighters in eastern Ukraine are simply volunteers. But these men have the latest sophisticated equipment. One item is a radio-electronic warfare kit, which is rarely seen in the Donbass.
Інструмент радіопригнічення, так, тобто точково вона може якби впливати на органи, скажімо, чуття дронів, так, глушити сигнал або навіть садити.
Ну, понятно, они себя защищают, видя такие активные передвижения.
It was the headboard. Cops signed off on it. The rabbit hole goes deep. Headboard fell on his head.
If you want to eat healthy and feel your best, you gotta try Kachava. Kachava is the...
Well, joining us now on set is Derek Thompson of The Observers. The team has been looking at amateur images coming out of Ukraine. What have you been seeing this morning, Derek?
Well, this morning we've been focusing on the Kiev, on the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, and especially on a district called the Obolonsky district. We heard a report this morning from the AFP, from an AFP correspondent. He said he heard shooting in that district, and I think we have a video that shows that. It was filmed by an amateur this morning. At The Observers, we follow amateur videos online. We try to see what it can tell us. And if we can take a listen to this video, we don't see very much. We see a tracked vehicle there in the distance, but there's actually the sound of gunfire. I don't think we can hear it now, but there's the sound of small arms fire. It's quite sustained, it's quite intense fighting. And then we see also this tracked vehicle. Now, we can't tell whether that's a Ukrainian vehicle or a Russian vehicle, but we do know that it was happening in a very specific space inside the city, the Kiev city limits. If we can take a look at a map, I'll show you exactly where that was. Because now there's a map of Ukraine. There we go. So we've got the airport and Hostomel, which is a town to the north. And then you see Kiev down there. And yesterday we were tracking, there was a major helicopter assault at the Antonov International Airport, which is about 27 kilometers northwest of the center of Kiev. The pictures we were just seeing are in the Obolonsky district. You see it there in the center of the map. And then you see down there Independence Square. That's the very heart of Kiev. So we know that there's fighting. That's only 8 kilometers from the center of Kiev, Independence Square, to Obolonsky district. There's fighting there this morning. That's major cause for alarm. Now, we showed the airport there yesterday because there was a major helicopter assault, as I said, on that airport. This is a cargo airport. It's not a military airport, but it's a military target because they have a lot of big planes there. And what happened yesterday around the middle of the day, and we have some video of this, we saw some amateur video that showed some helicopters flying over the Dnieper River. This is north of Kiev. We'll see them in a second. And this was a flight of we counted about 10 different Russian helicopters, but there were maybe more. We see them flying over the river, and there was actually Ukrainian anti-aircraft missiles that targeted them, that went up to the helicopters, and then the helicopters responded by releasing these flares that light up, and they serve to distract from the heat-seeking surface-to-air missiles. That will come just a second in the video. And this was filmed by an amateur person, as we say, over the Dnieper River, just north of Ukraine. So this was yesterday. You see these helicopters flying. They're flying towards that Antonov airport, all right? Those are the flares that they're releasing to try to confuse the heat-seeking missiles. And these helicopters ended up arriving at the airport a few minutes later. We have another video of that. And another amateur person filmed a shot from the ground. And if we can hear the sound, we can hear the sound of the helicopters. And the man was talking. He was saying in Ukrainian, there may be 20 of them. I don't know. Maybe there are 30 of them. I can't see any Ukrainian flags. They must be Russian, he said. So then what happened is that the helicopters, they apparently landed, and we know that because we have a tweet from our colleagues at CNN. And what happened is soon after these helicopters were flying over the airport, something was burning at the airport, and then our colleagues at CNN actually saw Russian troops on the ground. These were Russian airborne troops on the ground, 27 kilometers from the center of the capital of Kiev. Now, he said that there was a fighting going on with the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians said that they shot down 3 of the helicopters, and they actually repelled the attack on the ground. We don't know if that happened or not.
And Derek, how do we know if these are Russians or Ukrainians?
Well, that's a key thing. The Russians and the Ukrainians share a lot of equipment. We've been taking a look at a couple of other videos which are from down south in a different part of Ukraine, which also show Russian troops inside the territory of Ukraine. And if we can take a look at the map that shows a place called Kakhovka, this is about 60 kilometers north of Crimea. Crimea has been held since the Russians for years, as we know. We saw 2 videos in this place, Kakhovka, which is about 60 kilometers inside Ukrainian territory. And we have a video there that shows Russian soldiers who are actually on the ground. It was filmed, once again, by a Ukrainian person. And he said that he actually went up to the soldiers who we see in this video. He said, "Who are you guys?" They said, "We're Russian." He said, "Can I film you?" And they said, "Sure, go ahead." So they're there openly. They're setting things up inside Ukrainian territory. And there was another image as well where we see a convoy. This was a convoy that was supplying these same soldiers. We see some armored vehicles, and we see some trucks as well. That's another video which I hope we have to show you. Here we go. And look at these as they go by. You see a Z written on the side of the vehicle. And you see a Z there. And what they're doing, it appears to be that the Russians who are entering Ukraine are putting Z on the sides of their vehicles to distinguish them from Ukrainian forces. And another interesting thing is that the Russian soldiers who we're beginning to see inside Ukraine, they have white armbands on both arms, on here and on here. It seems to be a distinctive sign of Russian soldiers inside Ukraine.
I would have thought that they would want to not distinguish themselves to sow confusion, but
I think they want to avoid friendly fire, but yeah, they don't have other distinguishing marks. I should say they're not saying what regiment they are, etc. These are the only signs.
Okay, Derek Thompson, we'll keep it there. Thank you very much for that.
Fucking wild, bro. Straight up. Let's see what else we can find. Let's see what's going on.
Demilitarizes. The EU puts President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on its sanctions list, but
they don't give a fuck about sanctions. Putin and his strategists, before they even invaded, they all sit down at a table and they talk about, if we invade, what's the consequences? Obviously, sanctions is one of them. They don't care how many countries sanction them. And sanctions are like, hey, we're going to put tariffs on you and all kinds of shit like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't care about sanctions. They've obviously waited out and they feel that invading Ukraine is a bigger win to them than the sanctions. You know what I'm saying? It outweighs any sanctions.
holds off from including the SWIFT payment banking system. Despite hundreds of arrests across Russia on Thursday, in St. Petersburg, protesters once again take to the streets. Welcome to the programme. The battle for Kiev is underway as Ukraine continues its fight for survival on the second day of Russia's military invasion. After taking the Chernobyl exclusion zone to the north on Thursday, Russian forces have swept down towards the capital. Fierce street-to-street firefights have erupted in the city as Ukrainian defenders try to repel the attack. Now, across the country, Russia has mounted further military operations in an effort to take other major urban areas. Civilian casualties continue to rise. President Volodymyr Zelensky has been out on the streets of Kiev tonight to send this message to Ukrainian people and Russia.
Our troops are here, citizens are here. All of us are here protecting the independence of our country, and it will continue to be this way. Glory to our defenders, glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes.
The Kremlin says it's analysing a request by the Ukrainian president to hold talks. Ukraine's leader says he would be willing to discuss a non-aligned status for his country, preventing Kiev from joining NATO. However, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has called on Ukraine's armed forces to overthrow the current regime.
Once again, I appeal to the servicemen.
So Ukraine said, hey, we can work out some kind of deal where we won't join NATO. Vladimir Putin and Russia said, fuck that. And he has ordered for the troops of Russia to overthrow the Ukrainian government. Yeah, Joe Biden definitely knows what's best, homie. Yeah, I know you're being sarcastic and I love it. Fucking, bro. If Trump was president, whether y'all like Trump or not, this would not be going on, man. At least, even if it was going on, we would be fighting them, not helping people run away from them. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, we'd be there to evac no matter what, but, you know, we'd be taking the fight to Putin's fucking doorstep. You know what I'm saying? But don't get it twisted, bro. Russia's army ain't no bitch. Like, they have the most tanks in the world. They have, like, the best submarines in the world. They have a lot of dope shit. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep going.
Of the armed forces of Ukraine, do not allow neo-Nazis and Bandera to use your children, your wives and elderly as human shields. Take power into your own hands. It seems that it will be easier for us to come to an agreement than it will be to come to an agreement with this gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis who settled in Kiev and took the entire Ukrainian people hostage.
What he's saying right now is propaganda. He's saying that Ukrainian people are they're being run by neo-Nazis and drug addicts. This is the Russian propaganda. This is what Russia does before it starts a war. They put out propaganda to, persuade the Russian citizens to get on the side of the government. Because obviously, while Russia's at war, they don't want their own citizens fighting them like, hey, this is fucked up. You shouldn't be doing this. You know what I'm saying? So this is part of the propaganda that, the Ukrainian government is Nazis and drug addicts. That is not even remotely an iota of truth. It's propaganda. So keep it going.
We spoke to Sasha Vakulina, who's currently sheltering for safety in Kiev. Now, she said that President Zelensky reassured Ukrainians by coming out onto the streets to harness their support.
That was a very strong message by Ukrainian president. He was not alone. He was joined by his top team. He said, we are here. We are in Kiev. We're in the streets of Kiev, and we are not going anywhere. That was a very important message as well, because there were rumors today, during the day, that Zelensky might not be.
Ayo, side note, the news reporter, like the actual news reporter, not the girl out in the darkness, but the news reporter in the newsroom with the long hair, she's attractive. 1,600 Russian protests arrested in Moscow. Holy fuck. We're going to look into that. Thank you, Joe. Yo, any topics that you want me to look up and show the people, bro, help me out. I'm definitely going to look into that. Joe just said 1,600 Russian protesters were arrested in Moscow. Obviously, there's a lot of people against the war in Russia itself. So don't think every Russian person is on the side of this, because they're not. Let's keep it going.
Be in Kiev, and he just needed to do that also to say that was not true and to confirm that he is, and he's not going to go anywhere. And
300 Russian troops killed so far. God damn.
To say how defiant and how resistant the people are, and he's there to support them.
And Sasha, what is the Ukrainian media then saying about this current situation and, of course, the foreign response?
Ukrainian media are really in line with Ukrainian officials. It's fair to say that they are also calling on all the Western allies and all the partners of Ukraine to toughen up the sanctions, to do more, to help more, and also not only the sanctions. This is very important here. There are calls from Ukrainian officials to help with weapons, to help with air defense systems, and Ukrainian media.
I gotta grab something to drink real quick, so I'm gonna keep letting this play. I'll be right back.
Of course, because the
and the EU is making the visa system much harder for Russian.
Place to park that wealth, as we've seen with.
And Ukrainian media, they're covering the situation in very tough conditions, of course, because the offensive operation is on. I'm not sure if you can hear now, but I can clearly hear the explosions. I am currently in Kiev, and we can hear them during the day all the time, and the sirens going off. So that's the spirit. And for the allies, do toughen up the sanctions and do help more with weapons and the air defense systems.
Well, whether or not, this extra and further support from the international community does come, we're learning that, adult men between 18 and 60 years old who have had basic military training, well, they're being banned from leaving Ukraine. What more can you tell us about that?
Definitely, this is part of the martial law that was introduced yesterday morning in the very first hours and minutes of Russian invasion, in the very early hours of this war that Russia proclaimed for Ukraine. And the men really cannot leave the country nowadays. They're banned from doing so. They're invited to come and help defend their country, to help to protect the country, to protect their families, their wives, their mothers, their children. And I have to tell you that not so many men are leaving. So many across the country are signing up as volunteers to do so.
US President Joe Biden held a call with Ukraine's embattled leader on Friday. President Zelensky thanked the US for its sanctions against Russia and its continued defense assistance. Well, let's now cross over to Washington, D.C. and speak to Ray Suarez. Okay, so Ray, we heard there that President Biden has spoken to President Zelensky. What more can you tell us about what they spoke about and the assurances that Biden gave?
Well, President Zelensky has been very critical of the United States response over the last 72 hours. Not always the United States specifically, but the West in general, and pronounced Ukraine standing alone and asked for more assistance. It's at one point in a message to the EU dramatically said that this might be the last time that he was seen alive. So this is a significant change in tone to thank the U.S. for its support, and also important to keep those lines of communications open, as it seems to be that this is going to be a fairly long crisis, not something that's wrapped up for one side or the other in just a day or 2 or 3 days. Right now, the United States continues to put men and materiel in the eastern regions of NATO and get ready for a large number of expected Ukrainian refugees coming west across Ukraine's borders. Mariam?
Now, we know that the US has now joined the EU in directly sanctioning President Putin and Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov. How effective do you think these sanctions are going to be?
Well, sanctions against individual Russians were part of the American design of its sanctions plan from the beginning, when they said they didn't want to hurt ordinary Russians with more broad-based measures, but target specific elites inside Russia. And of course, Sergei Lavrov and President Putin himself are the elites of the elites. Now, in the last 30 years, a lot of...
I'm going to show y'all how corrupt Russia actually is, and I think that'll give you a better perspective of what's going on and the truth. The mainstream media is not going to show you shit like I'm about to show you. So I'm going to keep this tab up. We're going to jump back to it, so don't worry. You don't have to dip out. If you want to continue watching this, we're going to come back to it. SlabAllStarz News gotcha, you know what I'm saying? So let me pull this up real quick. My boy Johnny, as always. Johnny Harris. Let's see. No, Barney. I think that's how you spell it. Right here. This will give y'all a wonderful perspective of the corruption and everything going on in Russia.
I'm always shopping the real. They drop over 10,000 new arrivals every day.
Gucci, Rolex.
There's one guy in Russia that Vladimir Putin, the president, fears more than anyone else. He wears a lot of different hats. He's a political activist, he's a YouTuber, he's kind of an internet troll. He's a lover of quality drone footage to help expose corruption, which, like, come on, who doesn't love a good drone shot? But his main objective is singular. It's very focused. It's to give the Russian people, and all of us around the world, a peek behind the curtain to show how Russia really works, exposing the web of bribes, corruption, lies, and powerful men who really control modern Russia. This important figure who is seeking to dismantle Russia's web of corruption is named Alexei Navalny. And just last week, he was sentenced to 3 years in jail, as well as being nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize after being secretly...
Imagine that. Getting sentenced to 3 years in jail and simultaneously being nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And he didn't go to jail because he's a bad guy.
Poisoned on an airplane. After being secretly poisoned on an airplane. The movement that he has created strikes at the heart of Vladimir Putin's biggest fears, and I want to show you why. So let me introduce you to the man Putin fears the most.
Alexei, Russian opposition leader
Alexei
Navalny.
Okay, so let's rewind to summer of last year. Alexei Navalny is in a city in eastern Russia. He's in a hotel room about to head to the airport to catch a flight. When he arrives to the airport, other passengers recognize him because he's kind of a big deal in Russia, and they snap some photos with him. Then he gets on the flight. The flight takes off. It's a 4-hour flight from this city of Tomsk to Moscow, where he's going. Everything's going normal for the first 30 minutes of this flight, but then Navalny starts to feel weird. A flight attendant offers him a bottle of water and he refuses, but soon this feeling weird turns into severe pain. He runs to the lavatory looking for some reprieve. He's going in and out of consciousness. He may be going into a seizure. His heart is slowing down. His muscles are convulsing and seizing. No one has any idea what's happening. A nurse aboard steps up and helps keep him conscious while the pilots reroute for an emergency landing at a nearby city in Russia. The plane lands at the closest airport where medics sprint onto the runway to help, only for the medics to say, and I quote, "This is not a case for us. He needs intensive care." Navalny is then rushed to a hospital, but what happens inside this hospital is kind of mind-blowing. When he gets to the hospital, they start running tests on him to see what's going on. But when the doctors come looking for the results of these blood tests, the lab technician hands them a blood test that says that Alexei Navalny's totally fine. Nothing out of the ordinary, maybe a little bit of irritable bowel issues. But that's not what the doctor is seeing. This man looks like he has been poisoned. But the lab technician didn't hand over any results that indicate that he was poisoned. Something is up. The doctors go ahead and go with their instincts and treat him for poisoning because that is the symptoms that they are seeing. They put him on a ventilator and they put him into a medically induced coma to recover. Over the next few days, Alexei Navalny is in the intensive care unit, in a coma, in this hospital. But the hospital starts to fill up not just with doctors, but Russian government officials who start barring people like his wife and his personal doctor from entering the room. Navalny and his family do not feel safe in this hospital. It's at this time that a German humanitarian nonprofit organization offers to charter a jet to fly him from this town in Russia, out of Russia, to be treated in Berlin. Soon he's on an airplane to Berlin, where he arrives at a hospital, and they run all of the same poison blood tests that they did in Russia, but this time they find that he was poisoned. This would have come up on the tests they did in Russia, but somebody decided not to reveal that to the doctors.
Mr. Navalny remains in an induced coma at a Berlin hospital.
The German doctors are seeing that the poison that was somehow administered to Alexei Navalny is some crazy nerve poison that sends the victim into a state of paralysis and gives nerve damage and inducing seizure.
This is what Putin does to people that speak out against him. Isn't this fucking insane? Just wait, it gets even deeper.
And making their hearts slow down. It's a poison that was developed.
Shout out to my boy Johnny Harris, man. After this, go follow Johnny. He's an amazing, amazing artist in general. You can't even summarize him in one category.
Developed by Soviet scientists during the Cold War. Heart slow down. It's a poison that was developed by Soviet scientists during the Cold War. And they used it to quietly attack people they wanted to get rid of, like spies or double agents. It's called Novichok, and it is a brutal poison. And it was the poison that was used on Alexei Navalny.
Tonight, this incredible story, the most prominent Russian opposition leader is in a coma on a ventilator.
Now, there's a lot of ways to poison someone. You can use ingredients that anyone has access to. Novichok is something that is developed and used only by the Russian military and intelligence. In a sense, it's a signature. So Navalny goes back into a medically induced coma in this hospital in Berlin, where doctors are doing their best to treat him and also investigate what happened. Soon, the world would know exactly what happened.
Employers and talent want the same thing.
300 Russian troops killed so far. Russia is the second biggest fertilizer producer in the world. Fertilizer? Why would that be important? Can't grow crops, no crops. Can't feed the animals, no animals. Can't eat. Sleepy Joe has shut down over 1,000 pipelines in 13 months. Jesus Christ. That is fucking nuts, bro.
Okay, let's just pause for a second while Alexei Navalny is in a coma in Berlin, because we need to ask an important question, which is, who is this guy and why on earth is Soviet nerve poison being used against him? For most of his adult life, Alexei Navalny has been dedicated to one thing, which is shining a light on how Russia really works behind the scenes. Not this or this, but how it really works. One thing you need to know about Russia is that the whole society, the government, the business structures, everything is built on a giant house of cards, let's say. It's delicate, it's fragile, but it's the status quo. And Putin is at the top. From there, you have the people closest to Putin's, the ones that have his ear. The rich Russian billionaires who control Russia's main industries like oil and gas, mining, telecoms, all the richest guys in Russia. These guys do favors for Putin, and Putin does favors for them in the political sphere. They scratch each other's back, and in doing so, they maintain control over everything that gets done in Russia. And this model repeats itself as it trickles down to regional governments and then to town and city governments, who all operate in the same manner, keeping the society stable through a culture of bribery, secrecy, and intimidation. And it all happens in the name of keeping Putin secure in his position so that he can in turn keep his rich friends happy. The reason why Putin fears Alexei Navalny is because Navalny wants all Russians to see exactly how this works, to shine a light on it, which could easily turn the people against the system, to knock down this house of cards from the ground up, to stop putting up with a government that works for the rich corporate owners and not for the people. And if this happens, it's Vladimir Putin who has the longest, hardest fall. Okay, but here's the juiciest part of the story, and the part that got me into this and that I love, which is that the tactics Navalny uses to do this shine a light on the system thing, there's no better way to describe it than saying he's full-on trolling Vladimir Putin and his friends. He does this in a lot of ways, but what I love the most are his well-produced internet explainer documentaries. He makes these long videos exposing the indulgent corruption of Russian billionaires who control the country. And he uses these visual investigation techniques that are really stunning to look at and really convincing. But there's also a good amount of snarky, poking fun in every one of these videos. Like this deep dive into the corruption of this Russian politician that starts with this goofy iPhone video of him awkwardly dancing at like a wedding or something. But it's not just all poking fun. These videos then go very deep, and they reveal really useful and compelling evidence that shows just how bad this situation is, just how in bed the government is with these rich billionaires, but always peppered with a good amount of this.
The poster reveals a smile from the pack. How bizarre. How bizarre.
He's like a viral internet sensation meets like hardcore journalist, activist, video vlogger guy. He's like just an interesting character. So what is Navalny? He's kind of a politician, but he's more than that. His specific policy agenda has morphed, and it's honestly like not that noble. Like he totally supported the annexation of Crimea, which is like totally off limits and a terrible thing that happened. And his electability as a leader isn't very likely, but that's not really at the heart of his mission. His mission isn't about being elected, it's about dismantling the current system. Not to convince people to vote for him, but simply get people to vote against Putin and the status quo. And here's why this scares the shit out of Vladimir Putin.
Can you imagine winning $5 grand a week for the rest of your life?
That's some intense shit, ain't it? Like, and Putin had this guy, Alexei Navalny, put in prison for 3 years. Deadass. They tried to say it was a parole violation. Just some fucking really odd, weird shit, man. And this exposes all of it, bro. Just keep watching.
Our house of cards. Even though Putin is at the top of this pyramid, it doesn't mean he's all powerful. He's not like a standard totalitarian dictator who just has everyone under his thumb. He's only powerful because he's in the good graces of all these super rich guys that own the massive companies of gas, telecoms, mining, and natural resources in Russia. If these guys turn on him, he's over. Putin, while powerful, is simply one cog in the machine of keeping these guys powerful and immune from laws and regulation. Putin isn't afraid that all these YouTube videos are going to create legal issues for Putin and his friends. The courts in Russia are just as influenced by this culture of bribery and intimidation as everything else. He's not afraid of that. Instead, he's afraid that the people might realize that their government is controlled by a bunch of billionaires and start demanding that Russia be more transparent.
What is so very odd is what Putin is afraid of is exactly how the United States government and country operates. The elites run the United States. The elites also run Russia. But apparently, they don't know. It's very odd. It's very odd when you compare the two.
Some accountability for these rich dudes and the leaders that support them. And like I said, if that happens, these billionaires might be able to slip into the shadows and run away to some other country. But Putin will be the public face of the person who's kept this arrangement together. He will be enemy number one. His fall will be the greatest. That is why he's afraid. In a sense, he's painted himself into a corner, and he's past the point of no return. He must maintain the current system, or he will face the wrath of his people. So far, the only person who has actually garnered that wrath is Alexei Navalny.
How corrupt do you think is Mr. Vladimir Putin?
He's the basement of this corruption. He's personally involved in corruption, and he's encouraging our official for corruption. It's his way of ruling country.
Vladimir Putin made his first visit since Russia annexed Crimea.
Vladimir Putin casts his shadow across the boundary of Europe and Russia.
So, Putin goes to greater and greater lengths to ensure that he remains popular among his people and show the billionaires that he's still the right guy to keep this system of corruption going. He does this in a few ways. The first way he keeps popularity among his people is my favorite, and it looks like this. He stages these absurd photo ops where he's like surveying the land on a horse with no shirt, or playing hockey with a bunch of literal professional hockey players from Russia, and he's actually better than all of them, and he scores 8 goals in the course of this video. It's amazing. And people actually buy this. They like to see their leader like super powerful. And then secondly, he keeps his people happy by actually leading the country in ways people like. His approval rating remains quite high. But more and more, as Putin and this house of cards feels threatened, Putin is resorting to more extreme means to keep this system secure.
Из того, что там указано в качестве моей собственности, ни мне.
Okay, so we got the backstory on Russia and Alexei Navalny. Let's get back to Berlin, to the hospital, to the ICU where Alexei Navalny is in a coma. He finally comes out of this coma, and by then the world has looked into the details of him being poisoned on this airplane, and it becomes clear that this is the work of Russian government agents who snuck into his hotel and laced his underwear with this lethal nerve poison.
Just take a minute to soak that in real quick. Just soak it in. Russian secret agents like the CIA, fucking A, sneaking into his hotel room at nighttime while he's asleep, and they put poison in his fucking underwear. His boxers, dog. Where his pee-pee goes. Where his pee-pee goes. He had poison on his dick. What the fuck? And bro, it's gonna show it, but I'm just gonna go ahead. Spoiler alert. Navalny actually gets the phone number for these secret agent CIA Russian operatives. He gets the phone number, and he uses a phone spoofer and hits these dudes up and records it, and he's pretending to be their supervisor or something, and he says, you know, did you poison Navalny? Did it all go pretty good? You know, I'm just reviewing everything, and they admit it, and it's straight from Vladimir Putin. You know what I'm saying? Like, Vladimir Putin will openly, you know what I'm saying? This shit is fucking insane. Like, Vladimir Putin will openly poison niggas like in the dead of night and put poison on their pee-pee. You know what I'm saying? Right on their whole cock. He doesn't even care. So do you think he gives a fuck about sanctions? That's why I'm saying this all comes together, dog. Let's keep it going, man.
Alexei Navalny is the master of trolling and pranking and...
Oh, real quick. Sponsored by Monster Energy. If you're feeling down and slow today, get a can of Monster, homie.
He immediately responds to this. He downloads some basic call spoofing software that any of us could download, and he masks his number as a number coming from an intelligence secure line. And he calls an intelligence agent who has COVID and is like ditched out in his house at 7 in the morning. He's like delirious. And he goes on to pretend that he is a leader in the intelligence agency. He has all this insider information, and he teases out a confession from this intelligence agent that indeed they were the ones behind this poisoning. I'm not going to play a bunch of that phone call here, but I'm going to put a link in the description and you need to go listen to it because it is insane to listen to. So what's Navalny's next move? He's in Berlin. He almost got killed. He's now having to learn to walk again.
You see what I'm saying, bro? He got the fucking CIA operative dude to admit it. You know what I'm saying? In this next part, Alexei Navalny is a straight gangster, bro. He's in Berlin, Germany. He's in another country. He's safe. And he's about to release his biggest documentary ever showing the corruption. So, you know, most people would stay in Berlin to be safe. You know what I mean? Alexei Navalny says, fuck that. I'm a gangster. I was born a gangster and my nuts are the size of bowling balls. This motherfucker goes back to Russia. He went back to Russia, dog, to face Putin head on. He literally says, I'm paraphrasing, but he literally says, I ain't no bitch. Mama didn't raise no bitch. I'm going to fuck this bitch ass nigga up. You know what I'm saying? Bro, Alexei Navalny is a fucking gangster, dog, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Let's keep it going.
Because the nerve poison like really effed him up. What does he do? He decides to do exactly what he's always done. Instead of cower and stay abroad, he decides to return to Russia.
Return to Russia.
To face Putin head on. Upon his return, he releases a documentary that is his most epic documentary yet. He was working on it before he got poisoned. This one focuses entirely on Putin and his network of bribes, cronyism, and loads of amazing drone footage of Putin's lavish palace on the Black Sea. In true Navalny fashion, he makes it clear that he's going to release the film after he returns to Moscow because, in his words,
потому что мы не хотим, чтобы главный герой этого фильма думал о том, что мы его боимся, и что я буду рассказывать о его самом страшном секрете, находясь за границей.
The documentary becomes one of the most instantly viral videos ever to appear on the YouTube platform. It currently has 110 million views. My favorite part of this doc is when Navalny's team goes to the shores of the Black Sea. They blow up this inflatable boat, and then they get a drone in the air, and they fly over this giant palace on the shores of the Black Sea. And then they do what I love, which is animation on top of drone footage to help expose a crazy story. They start to pick apart every aspect of this palace. They get the original blueprints to show that there's a hockey rink in the basement, there's a full casino, and all of this for the benefit of the president of the country. But of course, it's not owned by the president, it's owned by his buddies. Some rich billionaire dude actually owns it, but who actually benefits from it? Putin. It's like a symbol of the whole Russian system in one drone shot. Freaking beautiful. No political leader should have a palace like this.
Alexei Navalny, who returned to Moscow for the first time since he was poisoned last summer.
Navalny lands in Moscow, and what happens? He's immediately arrested. On what charges? Well, they claimed that he was violating parole from some old fake set of charges brought against him years ago that were thrown out later. They were totally fake, and yet the Russian state continued to say that he had to report for parole. Turns out he couldn't report to parole officers because he was in a coma from being poisoned by the Russian government.
Just take 1 second and soak that in. They said he violated parole, even though he wasn't on parole because the charges got thrown out. They were corrupt charges, the same tactic. They were trying to silence him. So they say he violated parole. Russia, Putin, and all of them, they're trying to shut this guy down. They say he violated parole and that he violated because he wasn't reporting for parole. And the reason he wasn't reporting for parole was because he was in a fucking coma because they poisoned him. This is all documented. This is real. This really happened. They went in the dead of night and put poison in his underwear while he was sleeping, and he fucking soaked it into his body, and he fucking almost died on an airplane. They put poison on his pee-pee. On his fucking pee-pee, dog. He had poison all over his dick. So if you think that Vladimir Putin cares about sanctions from the EU and the United States right now because he's invading Ukraine, when he's literally having black site operatives go into niggas' hotel rooms at night and put poison on their dicks, you're a fucking idiot. He does not give a fuck about sanctions. He will literally put poison on somebody's dick and not think twice. Let's keep it going.
And yet, he gets arrested.
He'd only been back on Russian soil a few minutes when Alexei Navalny was told he was being detained. A kiss goodbye for his wife, Yulia.
Russia's justice system has been a sham for a long time. This isn't new. But just how blatant this is, how clearly faked all of this is to silence a threat to the leader, that's a new low for Russia and its justice system. So Navalny is arrested and put on trial. The people take to the streets of Moscow and around the country. The police meet them with force, arresting over 1,000 protesters and now arresting journalists. Here's a clip of Navalny's lawyer speaking openly to the media in the middle of Moscow, and out of nowhere, a group of policemen come detain her. Just like in broad daylight. While the protesters clash with the police outside the courthouse, Navalny stands in a glass cage, while a largely politically motivated sham trial about parole violation takes place. His wife, Yulia.
Isn't this fucking crazy, Joe? Isn't this shit insane? Like I was saying, this is why I'm showing everybody this, because this goes hand in hand with the Ukraine thing. This paints a picture of who Putin really is. You know what I'm saying? This is probably one of the best pieces of video you could watch right now to understand Russia, Putin, the oligarchs, all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? It is so corrupt, man. It is so insanely fucking just insane corrupt.
Yulia is in the courtroom, in the audience, watching this all happen. They're making eye contact. And in the end, the system does what it's supposed to do. Navalny gets 2 years and 8 months of prison time. The house of cards stays stable for...
And in the end, corruption prevailed. He got 2 years and 8 months. What is that? That's 32 months in prison. And my biggest fear is, A, they're going to pay some people off in prison to kill him. Because obviously, you know what I mean? Like, they'll be like, oh, it was a gang war and a riot happened and he kind of got stabbed 837 times in the face. Only him and nobody else. You know what I'm saying? Some crazy shit. They're like, it's kind of, Navalny's a G, bro.
For at least a little longer. This movement was never about Alexei Navalny or his politics, and it likely never will be. He will never be the leader of Russia. His role in all of this is focused on one thing: showing the people how their country really works, ripping away the curtain that veils how their government uses the resources of the people and who it serves and who it doesn't. Doing so threatens the security of Vladimir Putin and his friends, which is why the system is reacting, going to greater and greater lengths to muzzle Navalny and anyone like him. The question for me is, how far will this go? How much is too much before the Russian people decide to take back their country?
If you're a content creator of any kind, you need to start.
Respectfully to my homeboy Johnny, how he just said, how much is too much? Well, clearly it's still not too much. I mean, yeah, thousands of protesters are being arrested right now in Moscow for the invasion of Ukraine and shit like that. But I mean, the people can't win, man. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, Joe, I'm going to be checking my underwear for the next fucking 6 years. I can't, that paints the clearest picture ever. Putin doesn't care about sanctions or any of that. He will literally have CIA operatives go into people's houses in the middle of night, their hotel rooms, and put poison in their fucking underwear. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that, Joe. I'm really trying to keep people informed. So if Putin is not scared to go poison some motherfuckers in the dead of night, he don't give a fuck about sanctions, bro. I'm going to say that over and over. You know what I'm saying? This shit is just wild, bro. These are war crimes currently being committed against Ukraine. And I mean, all jokes aside, you know what I'm saying? There's always going to be a time to laugh. But we got to be 50-50 with it right now. You know what I'm saying? We take the good with the bad. And we got to be serious at some moments. But yeah, man, Alexei Navalny had poison all on his dick, bro. All over his fucking pee-pee. That's just crazy. Oop.
Their country.
Oh, bro, yeah, you absolutely got to check out Johnny Harris, man. Johnny Harris is my dog. He's got like 3 million followers. He makes the most boring shit interesting, bro. The way he edits, and he's simply chef's kiss, dog. Amazing. You know what I'm saying? Follow Johnny, man, for real. That's Putin's house. Fuck Vladimir Putin.
Watching this video, it is unfolding right now.
You know what I'm saying? And this was all recently, you know what I'm saying, within the past couple years. Because in that video that I just showed y'all, they were talking about COVID, you know what I'm saying? So that was very recent. The fact that Putin is not scared to be that openly corrupt and have people thrown in prison that speak out against him and poison them and have, black site operatives try to kill people. If Putin is willing to do that in the open, do you think he gives a fuck about sanctions from the United States or anything like that? You know what I'm saying? Plus, China has Russia's back in this situation. You know what I'm saying? It's just fucking crazy. What up? My dog Faded Mind in this bitch. I appreciate you for checking out the stream, bro. We were just laughing because I've been showing everybody who Vladimir Putin really is. And there was a guy named Alexei Navalny that was really exposing the corruption in Russia and the government and the oligarchs and how billionaires really run the government. But Vladimir Putin had him poisoned straight up. He sent people into his hotel room in the middle of the night and they put poison in his underwear. And he fucking faded out on a plane. Swear to God. We just watched the video. So if Vladimir Putin is willing to go in the dead of night and rub poison all over somebody's dick, it was all over his dick, bro. Vladimir Putin clearly don't give a fuck about sanctions. You know what I'm saying? Like, this shit is just crazy. And right now, we're going to pull up some more shit about what's actually happening in Ukraine. This shit is just wild, dog. And like I've been telling y'all, the last time something like this happened was literally Germany, World War III. Like, dead ass. Like, let me be serious with y'all for 1 second, okay? 1 sec, all right? Hold on, let me get this fucking right here. There we go. Seriously, bro, the last time something like this happened was Germany and World War II. Dead ass. For a country to go into another country and invade unprovoked, that is some serious shit. That is a serious war crime, you know what I'm saying? Like, sorry, I had to burp. That's a war crime, you know what I'm saying? Vladimir Putin needs to be held for war crimes. Joe Biden needs to wake up from whatever nap he's taking right now. And he needs to they need to go and Putin needs to be arrested, period, for war crimes, bro. These are fucking war crimes. People are already dead. And they only been invading for like a day. And motherfuckers are already dying, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, this shit is fucking insane. And all Joe Biden says is, our thoughts and prayers are with you. Are you fucking kidding me, dog? Are you fucking kidding? It is just wild to me, bro. And meanwhile, China and Russia are like this now. They're getting closer than ever. It's scary, bro. If World War III was ever going to happen, this would be the shit that makes it fucking happen, bro. Like, I'm not playing with y'all, man. Like, this is some real fucking shit, dog. All right, let's get back to the news, shall we? You know, your boy will be right here to do commentary. Let me zoom that up. Da-da-da. This is currently what's going on, so let's peep this.
Men have gotten extremely rich in Russia, but Russia hasn't been a great place to park that wealth, as we've seen with the cratering Russian stock market and the ruble at its lowest value historically. So they have tended to keep that wealth outside the country in pounds sterling, in euros, and in dollars. This leaves men like President Putin, rumored to be one of the richest men in the world, particularly vulnerable to the kinds of sanctions announced by both the EU and now matched by the Biden administration in Washington. Whether this is a pinch point, whether this is something that will in the short term really pressure the president remains to be seen. We've got a Russian leader now talking about Nazis and dope addicts in the capital in Kiev.
And I want to make that very clear to y'all, how he just mentioned the Nazis and the dope addicts. For everybody in here that's just joining us, we are streaming on multiple platforms in multiple places. For everybody that's just joining in, the Russian propaganda has begun, and Vladimir Putin is telling the Russian people that the people running Ukraine and the capital are Nazis, drug addicts, vile, disgusting human beings. That is why this is exactly like Hitler and all of that shit, bro. Hitler did the same thing. He tried to convince everybody that Jewish people were parasites. And Putin is doing the same thing right now, bro. And it's fucking insane, man. It's wildly insane. Faded Mind says, yeah, those sanctions Biden put on Putin won't make no difference. China is going to come through with the assist on how to navigate around them like before. Absolutely, bro. And China is dead ass. They've passed the United States. China is the biggest superpower in the world right now. Maybe not with their military, but in every other aspect, they dominate. And I'm going to show y'all some shit about China too, bro. So everybody on all platforms that's watching this, stay here and I will show you how terrifying China has gotten, bro. I'm going to show y'all some shit that's going to blow your fucking mind. Just stay here, all right? I'm going to play this real quick and then I'm going to jump to the video about China. I just got to call my wife back real quick. She just called me, so give your boy like 2 minutes, but I'm going to be right here and I'm going to play this.
It's hard to figure out exactly how rational or how self-interested he is at this point, whether personal sanctions that go after his wealth and the enormous amount of money he's got squirreled away outside the country is really going to change anything in the short term. Mariam?
Great analysis, as always, Ray Suarez in DC. Thank you so much. EU foreign ministers have met in Brussels to pass another raft of sanctions on Russia. Now, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine on Thursday, the bloc proposed punitive measures against Moscow. The sanctions target Russia's energy, financial and aviation industries. The EU's Foreign Affairs Minister, Joseph Borrell, said they have also approved the freezing of assets owned by Russian President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
As you know, in a sign of immediate support for Ukraine, we have adopted
All right, we're good to go. So this video right here, I'm going to show y'all some terrifying shit. China has been bullying all of their fucking neighbors. And why am I talking about China? Because China has Russia's back right now. China and Russia are teaming the fuck up, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, China will be there for Russia. China will stroke Vladimir Putin's ballsack for him. Or they'll send somebody else to do it. You know what I mean? Anyway, China has been bullying Taiwan. They're about to go to war with Taiwan and invade them, just like Russia's invading Ukraine. China has even been rushing Australia, bro. Like, they're trying to take over Australia. They've been fucking rushing into international waters. International waters is a space of the ocean that nobody owns, and it's used for the entire planet, every country. China is now rushing into international waters and claiming dominance and building giant superstructure military structures in the middle of the ocean. Y'all need to pay attention. But in this video, it's going to show how China has went into every single state of Africa. See how on the screen the entire African continent is red? And you can see the lines inside of it. Those are the states. China has put billions of dollars into each and every one of those states. And the reason that's important is because China also, all the data that's collected inside of Africa gets sent to China. China literally essentially bought Africa, and that's a fucking problem. Just watch this, bro. Johnny explains this in a way that's going to blow your fucking mind.
Meet Google Fi, a phone plan by Google. With Fi, only pay for the data you use, or go unlimited.
Don't get Google Fi, get T-Mobile. I pay $50 a month for life for 5G, internet, phone, all of that. Fuck Google.
It's January 2017 at the headquarters of the African Union here in Ethiopia. An IT engineer is looking at the servers in this building, and something seems off. The engineer notices that often in the middle of the night, these servers are connecting to some server in Shanghai and uploading emails and audio files. The African Union headquarters was built in 2012, but it was not paid for by any African nation.
The impressive new headquarters of the African Union, entirely funded by the Chinese government.
This building was a $200 million gift from the Chinese government. It was designed and built by Chinese firms with Chinese money. And yes, the servers were installed by Chinese engineers, who, it appears, left an intentional backdoor into the servers so that they were easily accessible.
Just right there, just that little part you just watched. Isn't that fucking terrifying? Isn't that should be illegal? Let's keep it going.
The African Union IT team eventually removed these Chinese servers and installed new ones. The Chinese government literally offered to install them for them, but they declined. The local IT people also swept the building, and they found microphones embedded in the furniture and in the walls. The whole building was bugged.
Microphones in the furniture. This thing I'm talking into right now? Yeah, China put those into couches inside of African legal and fucking, what's the word of people that run the country? Presidential buildings and shit like that. Espionage, dog. Espionage.
And had been feeding audio and internal emails to China for like 5 years since the building was built. China building a headquarters for the African Union, and
remember, this all plays into Russia and what's going on with Ukraine. Because once again, China backs Russia. I'll shut the fuck up now.
And spine on it is a pretty good symbol of what China is up to in Africa. And that's what this video is about. It's about how a growing China has rushed into Africa, mainly by building a bunch of stuff. Roads, trains, dams, mines, ports. These projects are a part of China's growth as a superpower. And it shows how this country is projecting its power on the continent of Africa.
But there are questions here over why the headquarters of such an important African organisation is entirely the work of Chinese construction, labour and money.
Okay, so there's this very predictable thing that you see time and time again as countries get powerful. As a country gets rich, they often start looking outward. both economically and militarily. Let me explain what I mean here. 50 years ago, China was a very poor country with a huge population. But eventually they opened up to the world. They opened up their huge population as a workforce for cheap labor, and their economy exploded.
China is agrarian, urbanizing fast, you betcha, but still agrarian.
Most in terms of land, not population.
Come on, Michael.
No, you're wrong about this.
So now China is a very rich country. And remember, rich countries start looking outward. How can they project their power, connect with other countries to continue their growth? They do this for a couple of reasons. The first one is the economic reason. In the same way that the US got really rich and prosperous and started to look outward to China for cheap labor, China also got rich. And its labor eventually got expensive, wages went up, and China needed its own option for cheap labor and new growth opportunities. So they started pouring huge amounts of money, like $300 billion huge, into Africa. Okay, so that's the economic reason. China grows really fast, their growth is slowing down, so they need to invest in emerging economies, is what the economists will call it. Economies that haven't developed very quickly yet, but that with a little bit of investment could start to grow. Untapped markets. But the economic explanation is only half the story here. In China, economics and government power are not very separate. So to understand what China is really up to, you have to understand the geopolitical motives. And to do that, we gotta look at a map. Here are all the countries that China has projects in. And yes, I've just highlighted every single country on the African continent. I mean, besides this one down here, this little tiny country of Swaziland, they're the one holdout on all of this. These projects range from transportation projects like roads and trains, to energy like oil and dams, to real estate projects like housing developments, and then mining for things like copper. You have everything from a shoe factory in Ethiopia, to a $6 billion Chinese-financed dam in Nigeria, to a massive suspension bridge in Mozambique, the longest in Africa. I mean, these projects are everywhere, even here on this tiny island off the coast, where China has poured millions of dollars to build housing, a stadium, an auditorium, a library, as well as their national parliament. China built it all. There are too many of these projects to even count. And honestly, if you take it as a whole, a lot of these projects have been a major benefit and economic stimulus to these countries' economies. But why is China doing this? What are they up to? Well, in addition to all the economic value of investing in emerging markets, China's president also claims that they're doing this in the name of cooperation and friendship. 坚持以非洲方式解决非洲问题. The African way. Let's dig into this and actually see what these projects look like and how they are built, and if it truly is the African way, whatever that means. Okay, so there's this really impressive rail system that China built in Kenya. It goes from Nairobi to Mombasa in just under 4 hours, which is faster than any train in the United States, which, let's be honest here, isn't really saying much, because here in the United States we don't really know how to build trains anymore. We used to be really good at it and now we're not. It's kind of a shame. And anyway, look at this train in Kenya.
Hey, check this out.
3 days ago, I closed on my...
So yeah, so far I think Johnny's probably painted a really good picture for y'all of just how deep China's willing to go and the lengths they're willing to take, the amount of money they're willing to spend to get, you know, other countries under their thumb and assert control and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So just really, really wild. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm not going to play this whole video, but it's by Johnny Harris, my dog Johnny Harris. He's amazing, bro. An amazing videographer, cinematographer, and it's called China's Rush into Africa Explained by Johnny Harris. Definitely go check that out. We're going to look at some more live coverage right now and see what's happening.
As Russian troops advance on Kiev, President Volodymyr Zelensky takes to the streets of the capital to insist his government will not be going.
You know what's really fucking weird? Russia's president's name is Vladimir Putin. Ukraine's president's name is also Vladimir. It's Vladimir versus Vladimir. I find that very interesting and like cosmically ironic. You know what I'm saying?
Anywhere.
Our troops are here, citizens are here. All of us are here protecting the independence of our country, and it will continue to be this way.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's willing to send a delegation to Minsk for negotiations, but only if Ukraine demilitarizes. The EU put President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on its sanctions list, but holds off from including the SWIFT.
I already said this a million times, bro. Vladimir Putin in Russia don't give a fuck about no sanctions, because at the end of the day, they're already billionaires, every single one of them, so you're not fucking up their money, bro. They don't care.
Payment banking system. Despite hundreds of arrests across Russia on Thursday, in St. Petersburg, protesters once again take to the streets. Welcome to the program. The battle for Kiev is underway as Ukraine continues its fight for survival on the second day of Russia's military invasion. After taking the Chernobyl exclusion zone to the north on Thursday, Russian forces have swept down towards the capital. Fierce street-to-street firefights have erupted in the city as Ukrainian defenders try to repel the attack. Now, across the country, Russia has mounted further military operations in an effort to take other major urban areas. Civilian casualties continue to rise. President Volodymyr Zelensky has been out on the streets of Kiev tonight to send this message to Ukrainian people and Russia.
Our troops are here, citizens are here. All of us are here protecting the independence of our country, and it will continue to be this way. Glory to our defenders, glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes.
The Kremlin says it's analysing a request by the Ukrainian president to hold talks. Ukraine's leader says he would be willing to discuss a non-aligned status for his country, preventing Kiev from joining NATO. However, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has called on Ukraine's armed forces to overthrow the current regime.
Once again, I appeal to the servicemen of the armed forces of Ukraine. Do not allow neo-Nazis and Bandera to use your children, your wives and elderly as human shields. Take power into your own hands. It seems that it will be easier for us to come to an agreement than it will be to come to an agreement with this gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis who settled in Kiev and took the entire Ukrainian people hostage.
So once again, you're hearing that propaganda from Vladimir Putin. He's saying the people that are controlling Ukraine are drug addicts and neo-Nazis, and it's all propaganda. They're trying to turn the people against the Ukrainian government, and they're trying to get the Russian people on the side of the Russian government. It's a double play, it's a power play, it's propaganda, and it's fucking all fake news.
We spoke to Sasha Vakulina, who's currently sheltering for safety in Kiev. Now, she said that President Zelensky reassured Ukrainians by coming out onto the streets to harness their support.
There was a very strong message by Ukrainian president. He was not alone. He was joined by his top.
United States, Canada.
Let's watch the emergency NATO summit.
We have over 100 jets at high alert, operating in over 30 different locations, and over 120 ships from the high north to the Mediterranean.
Isn't that wild? Read the bottom of that right there, if you can. It says Ukrainian General Staff of Armed Forces asks citizens to report Russian troops, which is normal, but then it says, and make Molotov cocktails. To make Molotov cocktails. Yo, the government ain't gotta tell me twice to make some motherfucking Molotovs and whip them at shit. You know what I'm saying?
Including 3 strike carrier groups.
Well, we're going to take a short break, but still to come on Euronews Now. We'll be heading over to Matthew in the Cube.
Amid the attack on Ukraine and growing opposition online, Russia says it has partially restricted Facebook. We'll be taking a look after the break.
This is the time for the world to listen.
This is such a pivotal moment in our existence.
This is our future.
You can look at
or not, you worry.
An estimated 1,700 people were arrested across Russia Thursday during the anti-war protests.
Welcome back to the programme. Russian forces are advancing on several fronts across Ukraine, from the east, south and north. Now, Friday morning brought reports that troops had reached the outskirts of Kiev by Friday night. There are also reports of artillery fire and explosions in the capital. Well, President Zelensky has called on civilians to take up arms, and he was out on the streets of Kiev to show that he's not leaving anytime soon. Now, for more on how the military situation is unfolding, we're joined by Brad Bowman, Senior Director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and a former US National Security Defense Advisor. Mr. Bowman, thank you so much for joining us on the programme tonight. Now, the US says that there's a real possibility that the capital, Kiev, will fall. How important is the capture of the capital for Russia?
It's incredibly important. Putin's objective here is, in this unprovoked aggression, the most significant military invasion or action since World War II in Europe. His objective here is to decapitate the duly elected government of Ukraine. His forces are closing in on Kyiv as we speak. Ukrainians are fighting and dying to defend their freedom. And he would like to replace Zelensky, almost certainly, with a Russian stooge. So let me repeat that. We're looking at the most significant military attack in Europe since World War II, and it's an authoritarian aggressor trying to overthrow a duly elected government. This truly is a decisive moment in the conflict, in my view, between freedom and authoritarianism, between the rule of law and a might makes right oppression.
Well, let's break down Russia's attack then. We know that they are, of course, attacking Ukraine on many flanks. It also dominates the airspace. So talk us through this sort of multi-pronged approach by Russia.
Sure. At risk of oversimplifying, we're looking at two pincer movements by the invading Russian forces. One pincer is one element of the first pincer is coming from Crimea. Isn't that ironic? It's Russians in occupied Ukraine, Crimea, coming and attacking up toward the north and to the east. And then the other side of that pincer is coming from the northeast, from Russia. Those two pincers are coming together, and then the forces, the Russian-backed forces in the Donbass region, Luhansk and Donetsk, are trying to pin Ukrainian forces. The goal of that first pincer movement is to surround and destroy as much as possible of the Ukrainian military, and most of the Ukrainian military is in the east of the country. The other pincer movement is coming from the north, primarily from Belarus, and one side of that pincer is coming down one side of the Dnieper River, one side is coming down the other. That pincer movement is focused on surrounding and presumably moving into the capital of Kyiv in order to overthrow the democratic government of Ukraine.
Now, you talk there about, Russia really locking Ukraine into these pincer movements. This is, of course, a stronger Ukrainian army than it was in 2014. But, of course, Russia's military their military capabilities really do dwarf Ukraine's.
All right, y'all. I'm going to head out. we've been streaming for literally 2.5 hours. I think you get to cut the message. If you watch this from beginning to end, it totally paints a picture of what's going on. I really appreciate everybody that's watched the stream and all that shit, donations, everything, man.